What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and I want to stress before we get anywhere in this video, this is all non-confirmed information. It is a potential leak. We don't know if it's going to be true just yet until Nvidia's GeForce GTC conference next Thursday on May 14th. Until then, this is all rumor and speculation, but hey, it's some pretty juicy stuff. So if this turns out to be true, we have a leak of the details and specifications of the new upcoming Nvidia 3000 series. First off, they will all be RTX series cards because they're going to push RTX as a brand, and the GTX prefix is going to be retired completely. This makes perfect sense because they do want to highlight ray tracing and RTX, and I've always maintained over the last couple of years that ray tracing going forward is going to get better and better, more efficient, and will eventually become a standard feature, like ambient occlusion, shadows, lighting, textures, etc. But what's most interesting about this is the sheer power gap and gulf. Now, there's going to be 4 cards listed in here, one of which is going to be the complete star of the show, one of which is going to get a second billing, which probably most people could potentially go for, and then there's the other 2, but we're going to gloss over those 2 quickly, talk a bit more in depth about the 2 bigger and better cards. So, let's see what we have here anyway. The GA104 chip, which is going to power the RTX 3060. As with all of these cards, they're based on 7 nanometer ampere technology, none of which will also give the listed amount of VRAM included. But anyway, let's go. 3060 is going to have 2560 GPU cores, 80 ray tracing cores, 320 tensor cores, and a boost clock of up to 2000 MHz. VRAM amount is not included, but they're all running at a speed of 16 gigabits per second. Availability of the 3060, which of course is the entry-level model, is 2021 Q1. So that's your entry-level model. Moving along, we have the GA103 chip, which is going to power the mid-range model, the 3070. Of course, this one is going to have more GPU cores, this one coming in at 3584, more ray tracing cores at 112, more tensor cores at 448, and a boost clock of 1900 MHz. With an availability of 2020 Q3. So that one is going to be coming out a little bit sooner if this is all accurate. And the 3070 is probably going to be the most popular one. It's the one that most people will go for. Many people don't want to pay the cost to be the boss with the likes of the 3080 and the 3080 Ti. But when we get to the 3080 Ti, maybe people will. But before we do that, we'll look at the regular 3080, which is using the same GA103 chip as the 3070. However, it does come with more GPU cores at 4608, more ray tracing cores at 144, more tensor cores at 576, and a boost clock of 2000 MHz. Again, the availability on this one is 2020 Q3. So this one should be available the same time as the RTX 3070. Now, the 3080 is a very powerful card, of course. As always, I always recommend that whenever someone buys an Nvidia series GPU, which is the only type of GPU they should buy, they should always aim for the 80 model or above. That should be the proper standard. It is the true power model. There's always the king that does come later, but it's the true power model. But let's talk about the big dog. This is the one we want to talk about. Now, we have the GA100 chip, which is going to power the RTX 3080 Ti. Now, I just want to quickly point out again here, and I am going to make a direct comparison with the 3080 Ti and the regular 3080. So, the 3080 Ti, GPU cores, 8,192. That is almost double the amount of the regular 3080, which is at 4,608. So it's almost twice as much in the GPU core department. Ray tracing cores, same deal. 3080 Ti comes in at 256 versus the 144 of the regular 3080. Tensor cores, same deal again here, almost double. 1024 on the 3080 Ti and 576 on the regular 3080. And of course, a boost clock coming in at 1750 MHz. Availability on the 3080 Ti is supposedly going to be slightly later at 2020 Q4, which means that it would not launch at the same time as the 3070 and the 3080, but it would launch prior to the 3060, which is coming next year. Now, this is huge, okay, because the spec difference and the spec jump on the 3080 Ti over the regular 3080 is monstrous. You do not see this level of difference, this gulf in difference between a 2080 Ti and a 2080, or a 2080 Ti and a 2080 Super, a 1080 Ti and a 1080, or a 1080 Ti and a Founders Edition 1080. There was nowhere near such a gulf and such a gap when it comes to this in any previous generation. So this is potentially huge. Now, this comes out at several different things. One, what is the price going to be? This, because of this sheer monster of a card, what we see on paper, on the specs in front of us, this could potentially be very, very expensive. I want to say they have potentially learned their lesson with how expensive and prohibitive stuff like the 2080 Ti was. But again, looking at sheer specs alone, this looks like it's going to be expensive. I could see this card being somewhere between 12 and 1500 euro. Realistically, I'm hoping it's $1,000. Maybe potentially even less, but I doubt it. But this looks like the biggest and baddest jump from a regular series card like a 2080 or 3080 to the Ti model. This is the real deal. Forget what everyone was overhyping with the 980 to the 980 Ti. This is the big dog. This is the important one. Because here is the key thing. This is a term that's being thrown around a lot lately, be it with teraflops and all that. And it's not 100% fair because all teraflops are not created equal. But what we know and how we can measure stuff with all the GPU cores, the speed, the tensor cores, the ray tracing cores, everything we do know, as well as usual efficiency increases that we can usually glean from everything in the past. This 3080 Ti is looking to be around, remember this is all speculation and not 100% confirmed just yet, but this insane, potentially groundbreaking card is looking to be around 36 teraflops. Now, to give you an idea just how far ahead that is from anything we have at the moment, the current king of GPUs, which is the RTX 2080 Ti, is 14 teraflops. If this is accurate, which is a huge question, a huge if at the moment, if this is accurate, this card, this RTX 3080 Ti, is nearly 3 times more powerful than the RTX 2080 Ti, which is huge. Based on the performance and everything we saw from the RTX 2080 Ti, it made 4K 60 FPS with max settings viable in many, but not all, games. But if you're looking at max quality 4K and average 60 FPS most of the time in an RTX 2080, what are you looking at with an RTX 3080 Ti? We could be looking at a steady, consistent, every single game with a minimum of 60 FPS at 4K with max settings, let alone highly optimized games where we could potentially get 10, 100, 120 frames per second properly. Now this is huge, that's all I'll say. I can't really go too much more into detail yet because remember, all of this is big speculation and all at the moment. We do have to wait and see until next week, next Thursday, May 14th, when Nvidia has their GTC keynote and they are going to talk about their new Ampere technology. So all I know is if this is true, 3080 Ti, you will be mine. The only thing I will say, however, if it does have a Q4 release date of 2020, well, I might be waiting a month or two to play Cyberpunk 2077, but it will be worth it.